the percentage of women, young women, heading into one day perimenopause, iron deficiency is a massive problem.
So 55% of adult women have some degree of iron deficiency. We need iron to produce all of our neurotransmitters. Dopamine for motivation, GABA for calming, serotonin, contentment, melatonin for sleep. All of it is reliant on iron. When we're iron deficient, our mood is very flat, we're very depressed, we can feel incredibly anxious, our heart races, we get heart palpitations, and iron deficiency is being missed in that. Everyone knows about how important magnesium is. Vitamin D, you got it, creatine, protein, and all of it's important, but we're missing iron.
This is very controversial right now. Everyone's forcing iron down. Hemochromatosis is a condition where iron can go super high and be super oxidative, very dangerous.
Yeah, I get direct messages every day from people bringing this part of the story to life and asking where's the truth in this, or they'll have watched a video on social media that says never ever take iron because it's essentially a poison, and their iron has tanked and they feel horrendous.
I know. I come from a major premise that God doesn't make mistakes. He's designed our body perfectly and beautifully. Did God make a mistake that we're eating this perfect diet and ferritin levels are going up? The answer is no. It's not as simple as we think.
Sometimes what looks like iron accumulation is copper deficiency or vitamin A deficiency, or at least insufficiency.
People say, well, it makes people constipated. No, you're taking the wrong iron because it's feeding the bacteria, and the bacteria actually create the constipation. So, in other words, if ferritin levels look like they're rising up, it could be another issue?
It could be another new issue.
You worried about your hormones? Oh, stay tuned for this show. Females, ladies. Oh, I've got the ladies here. We're going to talk about perimenopause, menopause, all the fun stuff. What's good, what's bad, dangerous. Men, we're not leaving you behind, because what about your testosterone? You thinking about that? Worried about that? Okay, I'm here with Dr. Libby, and you're one of the top experts in this, a biochemist, have your own incredible product line. We're going to talk about your incredible iron that my wife is on. And of course, I am here with my wife because she loves these topics and she loves your products. So anyway, we are going to have a great conversation.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. It's a joy to be here.
Welcome. And we can tell by your accent. Where are you from originally?
I grew up in Australia. I've spent a lot of time in New Zealand as well. So just kind of say I live down under.
Yeah, she lives down under.
That's it.
Gosh, okay. Well, how long here in the U.S.?
I've been here a week this time, so heading home this evening.
All right.
But have loved my week here. So
I thought you'd spent some time in California, though.
Yes, 3 days prior to here.
I meant like long time, but no. Okay.
No.
All right, so still down under then.
Yes, but looking forward to spending more time here.
I just sent them up to beautiful Park City, so you'll be having lunch there where I recommended. All right, I always like to start here. How did you get pulled into this? I mean, I guess even biochemistry for that matter, and then to be pulled into more of the alternative route. And you've authored so many incredible books, and you're an incredible speaker. You are out there, and I hope my audience, you're new to them maybe, but maybe not. But how did it all start?
You're so kind. Thank you. Yeah. So I grew up incredibly simply with really caring parents, and we grew a little bit of food in our backyard, and I think that's probably where the seeds were planted about the importance of nutrition. So I went to university for 14 years, which I know makes me sound really thick and like I failed everything, but I very much love learning, and I still do. So I originally studied nutrition and dietetics, then did honours, then did a PhD in biochemistry, and I was the last person on the planet you would think would do biochemistry because I was much more of a people person, but I had a really curious mind, and there were all sorts of things I was seeing in clinical practice.
Well, you're a curious person. That's why you went biochemistry.
Yeah.
Because I thought maybe I was going to end up biochemistry.
Interesting.
And because I'm a really curious person. And it's like, that's why I kept wanting to study the cells of all things, right?
That's it. Yeah. That's it. And you can see obviously the power of nutrition in all of the biochemical reactions that run every moment of our life. They drive how we feel and function. And I don't think enough people are aware of that and the magnificence of that. So, but then after uni, I've worked with people one-on-one for 25 years. And so I combine my education with my clinical experience, and I've created my 3-pillar approach, which is biochemistry, nutrition, and emotions, or you could say beliefs or mindset. So I look at all of it.
So we're going to get into emotions too.
Let's talk about that first.
No, I know the 3 pillars. Yes.
I think everybody else has so many of those other topics. At least they're on their path and they figured some things out. But I think emotions are the one that is most overlooked and undervalued for the role they play in disrupting the hormones. Just let's start there.
Yeah, right? Merrily, I agree.
Okay, let's start there. How'd you land there? I mean, the reason I say that is biochemists usually don't understand the power of emotion. I mean, Bruce Lipton is a cellular biologist who wrote a book, Biology of Belief, meaning your thoughts, your emotions affect your cells. And, so some do make that connection. But how did you make that connection?
So sitting one-on-one with people and hearing how much they wanted to change their behaviors and their lifestyle choices, and yet they could only sort of enact what they knew was a way to nourish themselves for maybe 3 days, 3 weeks, or 3 months. And so I started to ponder, why do people do what they do, even though they know what they know? Mm-hmm. And it made me realize that there are beliefs we hold about ourselves that almost get in the way of us taking care of ourselves. I think too many people believe they're not worth taking care of. But our beliefs obviously are very slippery. They come out in our language patterns, but we actually don't realize they are beliefs, and yet our beliefs and our values drive all of our choices.
I call those identity issues, right? Many people have put it this way, everybody has an identity given to them by God, but unfortunately we are given false identities, and it's, you can hear people talk about those false identities, but then it affects their whole life.
Yeah,
and it affects who they actually are, becoming that. When I trained doctors for so many years, and I would watch their videos, and I could tell, like, gosh, they just struggle being themselves, the person that I know. And it was always typically they were trying to be something else. And it was, again, they were living out a false identity, typically given to them by someone they love, their parents, their brothers, their sisters, teachers, whatever, right? Sad. But there's other emotions, right? I mean, there's trapped emotions, there's traumas. Yeah. How do they differ? And again, I think coming from a biochemist having this conversation, is like, I think hearing a little bit about why these emotions affect our health from a biochemist standpoint is kind of a cool thing.
Isn't it?
We don't often get this opportunity.
So obviously we're not able to, the nervous system can't, and I know you guys know this, but for the audience, the nervous system can't distinguish between real and perceived threat. And so if we are creating a story that something is, a really common scenario over the last few years as people worked more from home, an example a lot of people have given me is, I received a call from a colleague and they said, "Where's that work? I needed it yesterday." Now, not everyone will say that that's stressful, but some people find that stressful. And I try to help people see the stress they create for themselves because of how they think, because we don't actually hear what someone says, we hear what we think they meant. And so when someone rings and says, "Where's that work? I needed it yesterday," what makes that stressful for some people is they create a story about how their colleague perceives them. I'm hopeless, I'm not a team player, I'm inefficient, I'm not a hard worker. Whereas for someone who doesn't find that phone call stressful, they just hear the request for the work. But for people who find it stressful, they make adrenaline. So the stress is message is sent to the adrenals to make adrenaline, and adrenaline then communicates to every cell in our body, of course, that our life's in danger, because historically we only made it when our life was physically threatened, whereas now, because of psychological stress, because of the irregular overconsumption of caffeine, people's perceptions of pressure and urgency, creating stories that others are disapproving of us, all can lead us to make adrenaline when none of that is, that's not necessarily the truth. And that
Do you still take clients?
It's funny. If you keep making adrenaline, eventually your adrenals give out, and then you don't adapt to the stress with cortisol as well.
That's right.
And then now you're not adapting. Now it becomes disease state, potentially.
Potentially. And the requirements for nutrients are greater when we're in that heightened state. And it didn't matter if we went into a heightened state, momentarily. That, let's say, a tiger jumped out of the jungle at us and we would spike adrenaline, that threat is over very quickly.
Normal.
Whereas now, the way we produce adrenaline is we wake up in the morning, we think of all the things, hopefully we think of things we're grateful for and feel so fortunate to be on the planet for another day and get this extraordinary experience of life. But then usually we think about what we've got to get done that day. We might open our laptop and see 600 unopened emails. We might have 3 coffees, and that's just spiking adrenaline. And that's every day for a lot of people. So the persistent production of stress hormones is a big disruptor to nutrient status, to hormone equilibrium, to the things that, even to sleep, so many things that are just basic foundations for health.
You have a lot of questions here, don't you?
No, I mean, this is a common thing when we get along very well, but he often will hear me say something in a way that I think is rooted in something that is a false belief, perhaps, that he's had about himself or an experience, right? And then but then I'm like, I didn't say it that way. And if I did say it to any degree of that way, I definitely don't ever mean it to be offensive, because I have such respect for him. He's my best friend. So I was thinking, in marriage, how common that probably is, even for spouses that have great relationships. And if you want them to cut this out, I'm okay with that. I don't care.
I'm waiting for her response.
I just think this is of high value, even for our benefit, right? Our leveling up. I mean, because I don't know, is that embarrassing for you? I'm kind of new to this role over here, sitting in this chair.
When I sit down here, anything's open. I'm not cutting anything out, but I want to hear.
So I'm not sure what I'm allowed to say. We didn't really talk about that.
You're both so generous to open that to the audience, because I'm sure everyone resonates with that, whether it's our intimate partner, children, colleagues. It can be anyone, obviously, where someone expresses something and our response is heard, obviously, through lenses, through the way, all the beliefs we have about ourselves. It's like we filter everything through those lenses, so we don't necessarily hear what someone says, we hear what we think they meant.
Yeah, that's what I heard you say, and that's when the bell went off.
And I think part of, and we're human, we're all going to do that, and I think the way I take responsibility for myself in that situation when I have that experience is to notice that I've had a heightened experience, and not to judge myself. I think the minute we judge ourselves, we go blind to any kind of insight arising. So I personally bring curiosity to, I can feel I've had a response here, and rather than, I might speak it and then apologize later, but if I try to catch myself these days before I speak it and catch what really just went on in that split second, and acknowledge, I understand where this heightened response is coming from.
I mean, doesn't the delivery matter, the tone? Because that's what the person perceives. It's more not the words as much as it is the tonality. Meaning, let's go back to your example of the job thing.
Yeah.
The tone of, if the person came at the person and said, hey, do you have that work? Because I really need to get that done. I need it done yesterday. Or, hey, do you have that work? I needed to get that. It's the tone that makes like the, right? Same words, but tone is how
have a big
the
impact.
Brain can change how you perceive it.
Absolutely. I agree with that. But I do think the different lenses that we each wear is exacerbating even a tone.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, we're only responsible.
For the deliver or the hear?
And we're only responsible for how we react to someone.
Yeah.
So, while a tone can be sometimes it's a quick, if it's a judgment against you, you're going to defend yourself, perhaps not with your words, but with your tone.
Yes.
Right? And so...
Or it's a perceived judgment against you. So, because that's what I always say she does. She has a perceived thing if I'm attacking her, when I'm just like saying, hey, next time, could you make sure that defense. So anyway,
but if there's a directness to, see, we could go back and forth, right? Because this is the reality.
That's right.
So if there's a direct, where were you? Or, I didn't see you there, or whatever. So it just is interesting how each of us is going to have our perception of that reality.
And when as a biochemist, because I'm not trained thoroughly in psychology, I've read a lot about it and done lots of external study, but I don't have formal training in it. Right. The simplest way I sort of describe it as a biochemist is, I feel that and I own this very much myself as a woman, the tendency is to create a story of rejection, and for men, the story gets created very quickly of failure, that they've let us down. Mm-hmm. So right. That's what I pay attention to.
That is so true. I mean, as a general thing.
As a general thing, so that can help people.
Because I'm looking to fix things.
That's right.
Men probably in general, right?
That's
Women are looking to be approved of in general, right? So, yeah.
And then when you complicate it with the reality and traumas of life and your life experiences, there's nuances of weaknesses within that structure. And that is... it's a journey to really, good for you that you're acknowledging your split second moment of, I could have done that better, right?
Yeah,
I mean, but look, you're a professional, so give us the cliff notes.
But I think too, it's all of it is this glorious journey of expansion of ourselves back to the truth of who we are. And if we see it as on the way, not in the way, so I feel that helps our judgment of ourselves to fall away. And obviously the love between you two is palpable. And so when we have those moments where it does feel tense, where it does feel like there's judgment passing, you know that you adore each other. You can feel that sitting, and you can feel it the minute you two walk into a room. So you know that that's at the heart of it. So you have this glorious space, I think, to explore what that was really about, because it's not about each other. It's about yourselves when that happens.
Yeah. And, I will say, I know this just for myself, pride gets in the way.
It does.
Childhood experiences of self-preservation or having to protect yourself because no one else would. And that for me, my voice didn't matter as a kid. I've seen many therapists along the way, and I've spent a lot of time with God through this and good stuff. So I'm okay with it, but I understand why I get triggered. And that's what is now, I think, the only thing that's in the way between, even just from my perspective, I can only speak for myself and control how I think of things. But it's just being willing to say, I'm so sorry, like that, because I have a hard time with that. I have a hard time admitting I have a hard time being vulnerable and releasing my trust again in a situation that hurt my heart. Mm-hmm. So I tend to build that, I tend to go here and protect myself. And I so know that he's the only person I probably don't have to do that with. I even said probably. Mm-hmm. And that's not true. The probably should not be part of that. But it's my own experience and how I've kind of salvaged that part of myself.
So how the childhood wounds, how does that translate into health? You know what I'm saying? Meaning, so we talked about, in the moment, adrenaline, how our perception matters, and we have a choice to perceive things better to help our health, our, cortisol reactions, adrenaline reactions first. But what about these types of traumas? So
I think the way as I said, I'm not a psychologist, but the way I look at it is how it translates into life now, because we can't undo that, but we can change how we see and experience that. And I think when there is, and I'm going to speak very generally because obviously people have lots of different traumas of varying degrees of difficulty.
Sure.
So I think when we experience things like that, we tend to be very focused on the drawbacks that those experiences have brought to our life, and we're missing the benefits that those very, very, very difficult experiences have brought to our life. And I think our mind has an opportunity to find more equilibrium from the challenges, from the wounds, if we go searching for the benefits that has brought us. So It doesn't make it okay, and it doesn't take away that that's occurred, but it helps us in the here and the now to go, I wouldn't have all these traits. I wouldn't be as resilient, as loving, as forgiving.
So you're saying find the things to be grateful for. And gratitude is one of the fastest ways. I mean, science proves this. I mean, just gratitude is the fastest way to help your cortisol, right? Yes. Help your stress responses, immediately change your hormones in the moment, right? I mean, there's all these things that de-inflame your cells. I mean, gratitude is, studied to change that. So what you're saying is you look at these childhood traumas and you literally have to make the list, if you will, of the benefits. You wouldn't be who you are if this would, and then, maybe every day, going
review
through
that. That's right.
Giving gratitude.
Yeah, and you know what happened for me through adversity in my life is I was able to look at I was able to ask myself why I was responding to certain things, or what was happening, or why I was the way I was. I mean, we've had a lot of things to go through that I could easily ask that question, and I kept coming up with, wow, I could have become reclusive. I could have become an introvert. I could have become so self-preserving out of those childhood experiences or out of those adult experiences. And instead, I went the other way. Yeah. And I am so grateful for that, because as a result of that, I have the opportunity to sit here and not be intimidated by asking you difficult questions and just trusting in your experience and learning something from that. And so I'm enormously grateful, not to mention where I came from and where I am today in life. Sure. There's just some obvious things of, familial, you can't choose your family, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I can see it was just about a month ago. My dad probably gave me one of the best gifts he could have ever given me. And I told him 3 or 4 different times since he found cassettes of when I was little, about 5 years old. And my pap who basically raised me, because my mom was divorced until I was 12, my pap would sing to me every night before I'd go to bed. When I was 5 years old.
Her pap raised her because she didn't have a dad.
And he was retired, and he reupholstered furniture. He had an egg route. My mom had me in a private school for kindergarten and a nursery school, and my papa would be the one to pick me up. And my mom was very pretty and young and divorced and had dates and things like that. So my papa played cards with me and all of the fun stuff that little kids love, rowing on their pond, on their boat. But I was very alone. It was only him. And my grandma, who was a little bit, she was the breadwinner, actually. So when my dad gave me these cassettes, and interesting, it kept falling every time we get to the end or just about listen to it, it would come apart. And Danny, being who he is,
fixer.
Yeah, so he literally took these cassettes apart 5 or 6 times and super glued them and then put them all back together so we could listen to them. Anyway, everything I've ever told him about my childhood, he's so connected to all.
Yeah, it was right there in live. Like when I first heard it, I'm like, I heard it before her, and I'm like, oh my God, this is going to put her on the floor, right? It was like, because there was his voice, everything she said. Because she always knows all these nursery rhymes and stories. I'm like, how do you know this? Like who knows all these words to these things? Like, where'd you learn that? Well, here it was. I mean, he's like singing it to her every night, every word, everywhere. I'm like, well, this explains a lot.
And I talked a lot. I would talk a lot, and I would sometimes interrupt him. And I'm like, okay, some of that stuff is, the. But
it was healing for her.
It was so.
I saw it.
Yeah. And so anyway, when I was 5, my pap said, Marilyn's raised with values. We're going to church, and went to this little Buffalo Township Presbyterian church. My papa got radically saved, became an elder in the church, and that was my first experience with Jesus. And there's a whole story there that involves him later in life, right? And but the greatest gift that God gave me was my papa, and he died when I was 17, which was another really difficult season for me. But it just made me so grateful that even when I was lacking, God gave me a pap that loved me and showered me with his attention, his affection. And then when God showed up and taught him truth and he became aware of truth, that is why I am who I am today. Even the boldness, even the parts that talk about things that I shouldn't talk about because I could offend someone quickly, but
just looking at me.
But I'm not as embarrassed as easily. I'd rather get myself out there and let people know who I am, and they can accept me or reject me. But I'm good with whatever, right? I'm not a pleaser.
Well, she looked at me because in the old days, I'd be like, hon, you can't say that.
Yeah, what she meant to say was.
What she meant to say was, now I'm like, yeah.
And I'm like, what I meant to say was what I said. I could have probably said it a little differently.
But she also has a little filter now, right? It's like back then there was kind of like no filter. It was like brain mouth. And it'd be like, oh, well, and I'm the exact opposite. I'm always thinking about how to process, how to say something. And it's like, she just, boom. I'm like, oh my God. Like, it's like, didn't you notice that those people were just like this? No.
Yeah. My emotional intelligence isn't quite as high as his. It has gotten better. That's called sanctification.
It has gotten better. But I want to point out her hormones just got better. because she just went through she just did what you said to do. She took the, and put gratitude around it. So to put a whole nutshell on this, I mean, this is one of your pillars, emotions, right?
It is.
We just like jumped into this because
You listed third, but to me, it's like number one.
But now I feel like for our viewers, we have to put a bow on this thing. I mean, meaning like, okay, what's the big takeaway from the biochemical side? There was a few, but bring it together.
Well, firstly, thank you for what you've just shared, Marilee, and to sit here with you and your glorious open heart when you go through so many challenges. It's so easy to close and to hide, and you've done the opposite. And to think that when there's sort of no point to the suffering if we don't transform it in ourselves and pass it on, and you're doing that on steroids.
And God has a purpose always in it, and oftentimes, I mean, He allows it to make us better. So how did He make it
instead
better?
of bitter? That's
and
a choice.
We went through
That's
some hard
beautiful.
things in our life. I mean, now of course my sickness, right? And I always say God allowed that because I put too much stake in my physical, abilities, and learn to trust Him there. And then it was, headlines. We went through a whole court battle where we adopted 2 kids. Her cousin Lisa, her husband tragically killed himself, and we end up with 2 7-year-olds. Grandmother has us in court for 3 years. Headline said, chiropractor steals from orphans, right? That was me. Yeah, so imagine that, right? I mean, so shame, guilt, blah, blah, I mean, hard things.
And by the way, everything that was completely the opposite of who He is at his core.
Yeah, that's the way Satan works. It's like, but I say all that just to say that I would not be, our family, our 5 kids, those 2 kids are now 29. Okay, they were 7 at the time. We would not be who we are as a family if we didn't go through that. Yeah. I read something this morning in my little devotional book, and I always say I feel sorry for myself because it was 2009, and I'm like, crying out to God, Lord, I'm see your purpose in it. This is the year. I know we're going to see your promise come through, and you're going to rescue us. Oh, if you only knew.
That was the beginning.
It got really bad. It was like, to 2000, the end of 10 and 11 were even worse, right? It's like, so anyway, I'm always like, poor guy, didn't see it, but God walked us through it.
You might want to stop reading that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But anyway. Here you are with sunshine beaming out of your face.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah.
Helping
I mean,
people.
I read it this morning, and here I am going. I mean, everything that I was expecting, hoping, praying for, God did. I just thought it was going to be in 2010. It just wasn't. It was later.
2012.
Yeah. But the point is horrible as things can get, God has purpose in it. Mm-hmm. It does make us better. But what she always says is we have to choose that. Right? Yeah. We have to choose to be better, not bitter. We have to look back on gratitude. And it does change our biochemistry to pull this full circle.
It does.
Because the people that choose to stay in the anger, the guilt, all the emotions, literally, good luck, because you are going to form disease. Okay, you're driving adrenaline. I'm pulling it all first. So you said constant adrenaline. Mm-hmm. Now you're surviving on coffee, driving it more. Your adrenals are depleted, stimulants. You're driving cortisol up constantly and probably, crashed, and you don't even adapt to stress. All we know drives cancer and other problems.
And then when you think about when your body perceives that it's being threatened, that your life is in danger, it disrupts the production of sex hormones, of steroid hormones. So ovulation obviously occurs when the body perceives it's safe to bring a baby into a world, because if you ovulate, there's a chance conception might take place. Yeah. So it's another part of the story of that persistent production of adrenaline, is the way our reproductive hormones for both men and women can be disrupted because the body will prioritize the production of the stress hormones.
So a lot of people's hormones are disrupted because they're in this state, mostly unknowing to them because they're doing things to compensate for the symptoms, right?
That's right.
But they're in this state of survival. And I can tell you from my work with people, a lot of them end up in what's called a cellular danger response, where their body literally is saying every day, I'm going to save your life. And driving chronic inflammation is part of it. Yeah. And it goes rogue.
It does.
And it's ugly.
Yeah.
And people now become sensitive to everything they eat. They become sensitive to the world. They end up autoimmune, not understanding what you're talking about here.
Because the biochemical pathway for the production of estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone all begins with cholesterol. And so to shortcut the biochemical pathways that creates them, it goes cholesterol and that gets converted into pregnenolone. People don't need to remember the big silly words. And then pregnenolone becomes progesterone. And progesterone has a lot more to do inside of us than just be involved in reproduction. It's a beautiful it's a diuretic, it's an anti-anxiety agent, so it's very, very good for mood. It's very calming because progesterone can end up it gets changed a bit and then binds to the GABA receptors, which is obviously very calming. So, but at that point in the pathway, so cholesterol, pregnenolone, progesterone, there's a fork in the biochemical pathway where progesterone will be converted into either estrogen or testosterone or cortisol. Ooh. And so let's do the man's scenario first. So when a man is perceiving that there's a lot of stress, which he may or may not recognize. I think men are getting better at identifying when they are a bit stressed, but still I think a lot of it is just how we just think it's how life is. Got to get on with it. But if his hypothalamus is registering that there's a lot of stress, a lot to be concerned about, the hypothalamus says to the pituitary gland, also in the brain.
And just to bring people, the hypothalamus is the antenna that takes in information about your body, all your hormones, threats, and then it tells the pituitary to tell everything else. So it's kind of that antenna receiving information.
Beautifully said. So that it's the hypothalamus is forever saying, "Am I safe?" Looking out into the world and looking into your blood, looking inside. And so when there's lots of adrenaline, the hypothalamus looks inside and it says, "Am I safe?" Of course, the answer is no. So the hypothalamus, with that beautiful antenna ability that it has, then says to the pituitary, "We're not safe." And the pituitary is the one who then speaks to the thyroid, the adrenals, the ovaries, the testes, and says, "We're not safe, respond accordingly." So that's when ovulation can be disrupted because we don't want to risk bringing a baby into a world where your body is saying it's not safe here. And so we will prioritize the conversion of progesterone into cortisol and sex hormones then are disrupted. And so for a man, when he doesn't feel like when his body's getting the message that it's not safe, it'll prioritize cortisol production at the expense of testosterone. And so if we look at how that shows up for a man in his life, cortisol, when we produce too much of it long term, obviously is a big disruptor of a healthy metabolism, of metabolic flexibility. It says let's store fat, let's break down muscle, so body composition can change. It can also disrupt a healthy blood glucose response. It can contribute to insulin resistance. It changes our immune response, so it's a big disruptor. So men get really thick around the middle, around their torso, when there's that excessive production of cortisol.
And was guys either with parasites or on steroids.
There you go.
Well, it could be insulin, actually.
Yeah.
Hyperinsulin.
Right. It could be insulin.
Visceral fat. Yeah, visceral fat.
And then so that's going on in their physical appearance. And then they've also got all the effects of inadequate testosterone, which men, of course, they need it for libido, but they need it for strength and motivation and happiness. So their quality of life is hugely affected. And let's say they were to go for help they don't feel like themselves, they feel a bit sad or depressed or grumpy, or perhaps the family dynamic is not working so well because they're being told they're not helping enough, whatever so they go for some help. Usually the solution in conventional medicine is they'll be put on an antidepressant, which is the wrong medicine because they don't have a lack of that. They have too much cortisol and not enough testosterone.
Yeah, so they never got to the cause of the problem.
That's right.
But, my question is though, right now it's so in vogue, men and women on testosterone and stacking hormones, bioidentical hormones more. I recognize there's a time and a place. I'm not saying there isn't, okay? But the body doesn't know the difference of physical, chemical, or emotional stress.
Yep.
Okay, so we have a toxic world more than ever. In the last 50 years, we are introduced to massive amounts of toxins. That is stress. And the about emotional stress and what this brings, okay, even to our young kids who they're saying these testosterone levels are too low and all this stuff. So is the answer just giving testosterone or estrogen and progesterone?
So I'm not going to put down anything that someone feels is helping them. I think we need there needs to be space for all experiences, but it is a Band-Aid. I am very much about the body has the most magnificent ability to repair, to heal, to regulate. We just have to get out of the way of that almost and let it do its magnificent work. Yeah. So if we can understand why someone is not producing enough testosterone and they're producing too much cortisol, there is so much gold in that. There is so much personal growth. There is so much inner peace. So I'm way more about nutritionally, of course, you need zinc, you need iron. We've got to address the nutrients that the body needs to make the testosterone.
We're going to talk about that because a lot of people aren't supporting that, and it's going to help, right?
That's right.
So we'll talk about that.
So the nutrition has to be there, of course, but it's about getting to the bottom of why the body is getting the message that that's the right thing for it to do, is to not make enough testosterone and getting that out of the way.
And I want to point something out, and this is something I always teach. Innate intelligence, that intelligence that God put in our bodies that runs and heals your body every day, it has the number one priority is survival.
Yeah.
Number one.
Yeah.
Okay. And therefore it's stress adaptation. Yeah. So that's why it takes that progesterone and brings it over to cortisol. Well, why wouldn't it bring it over here because it's so important? No, number one is survival. And adrenaline and cortisol is survival. So they're trapped in this pathway of pushing it. So taking more of these hormones isn't really going to be the answer. That's why when people take the hormones, they go, well, some things might be better, but it never lasts, or it doesn't even get better at all because they're really not getting to the problem.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love to look at, I think, so right now with perimenopause and menopause being a really big topic, I think not very long ago, perimenopause was a word only health professionals use. Now the whole world knows about it.
And it's true, yeah.
And it's, it has drawbacks and benefits. The benefits are that there are some women who suffer terribly and they need the support and the help and the understanding that they so deserve. What's not being talked about is that there are many women who go through their perimenopause transition with mild or no suffering, and are we not curious about what's going on for them so that we can...
She did it perimenopause. She's been in menopause for years now. She did it without hormones, right?
Yeah.
So it is possible.
It is possible.
Right. I mean, aren't people asking, well, what did you do? Because our lifestyle is why that happened. Otherwise, she would be just like us. She wasn't lucky, right?
That's right.
It's like what we did allowed her to do it. So the question is, and you as well, what do we do, right? So, yeah.
So I love to look at, I guess, metabolic health, to put a broad statement on it. So I'm very curious as to if we pick on some key milestones across women's lives, because perimenopause doesn't just come out of nowhere. So it's really common for iron deficiency to kick in young girls, particularly when they first start to menstruate. Iron requirements are higher. It's often a time when we're teenagers that we restrict our diet in some way because we're trying to control our body shape and size. That's sadly still a big problem. So we become iron deficient, which may or may not be addressed.
And in women, the percentage of women, young women, heading into, one day perimenopause, iron deficiency is a massive problem.
Thank you. I wrote a book about it called Fix Iron First for that reason.
I spot read the book, actually.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's very, very kind. So that often begins. Then if we layer on top of that, we might go through a period in our life where we've just moved out of home. We might not eat as nourishingly as we want to. People might overconsume alcohol, but the liver starts to accumulate fat. Then it might be periods for girls get heavier. There's more blood loss. Estrogen's higher. There's not enough progesterone matching that. But with the heavier periods, we become even more iron deficient. The thyroid literally requires iron to make hormones and to convert inactive thyroid hormone into the active one. So now our thyroid's underperforming. There's no thyroid disease yet, but it's just not working as well as it once did. If we've continued on with lousy lifestyle choices and not enough activity, not enough muscle building, we might end up insulin resistant. And then by now we're sort of in our mid-40s and I want people to see that this is not just one thing happened and then we fixed it. This is like a compounding effect across our life between, say, the age of 14 and 45. And then hormones start to change. Of course they do. But right now there's this tendency to just go, well, any suffering, between the ages of about 38 and 55, anything we experience, it must be perimenopause. No. What if it's iron deficiency or bile insufficiency or liver fat accumulation or insulin resistance? It could be any of those things, and it's not being addressed.
Yeah, and all of which today's lifestyle, the way people are living it, is so common, right?
Yeah.
All of those things, from the insulin, right, PCOS, and all these things,
That's
elevated insulin because the standard American diet toxicity drives this. Obviously, I teach that. Okay, but I don't want to leave the iron thing because that was a big thing for my wife, right? And so, recognizing that probably, changed her outcomes in menopause, a big thing, because she always struggled with iron, and even not just even iron being deficient, but her conversions of iron, her methylation was always really depleted. But anyway, so most women are iron deficient. What is the percentage? Because I want to bring a solution here, because not all iron's created equal.
That's
right. You and I know this.
Yeah.
I created a mineral product that has the same iron technology that your iron is, and my wife needs higher doses, so she takes your product. But so let's have this iron conversation, starting from what percentage of women especially are deficient, do you think?
It's around 55% of adult women have some degree of iron deficiency. There are different degrees. There's depletion, deficiency, or iron deficiency anemia, where we don't have enough red blood cells or the red blood cells are too small. Obviously, we need red.
That's what she
I
had.
The
MCH. She had a lot of methylation issues. And,
MCHV, is that the one that was consistently, we did attribute it to lead, because I had very high lead.
Yeah.
And
no matter what we
years.
would do, we would support her methylation, we'd support this, or revitalization. I mean, all of it, nothing really would help. Once we got her lead down, it really changed her. Well, then her methylation came up. So it wasn't like trying to help methylate her didn't work. It was getting rid of the stress.
When R2 came out, right, and I've consistently taken that product, his
membrane product.
Yep. And now the last, it was the mitomethylator. Yeah,
that's R3.
So the last test I took, blood test, was the very first time in years that was in range. Mm-hmm. And I do think it was that product.
But finish the point, though, because there's multiple places here where iron plays in. You already made the point that you're not going to make normal hormones without iron. You're not going to make normal energy without iron. Your brain doesn't work. You could be left with brain fog, anxiety because of iron. So all these gut iron. I could go on and on, but so talk more.
So I'll give you an example. So iron, there's virtually nothing that iron deficiency doesn't touch, partly because it has to deliver oxygen to every tissue in the body. So I get people to imagine that their physical structure is made up of 50 trillion tiny little cells, and they in themselves are like a little city. They're building, constructing things. If something's not being used, the body's so efficient, it will deconstruct it. But every city has to have oxygen supplied to it, and the red blood cells do that. So, and iron is the only way that actually happens.
Right.
Then the next thing to think about is we need iron to produce all of our neurotransmitters. Dopamine for motivation, GABA for calming, serotonin, contentment, melatonin for sleep. All of it is reliant on iron. So right now, there's a real tendency when someone starts to feel more anxious, there's a tendency in our culture to go down a purely psychological road, and people can end up on some really full throttle psychiatric medications. And iron deficiency is missed so often. This is all in the literature, and it's not talked about enough. There was a study published in 2023 called The Psychiatric Manifestations of Iron Deficiency Anemia. So its effect on mood is dramatic. When we're iron deficient, our mood is very flat, we're very depressed, we can feel incredibly anxious, our heart races, we get heart palpitations, and iron deficiency is being missed in that. That's of deep concern to me for people of all ages, including teenage girls. So then, of course, we need it for thyroid hormone production, as I touched on. So thyroid peroxidase is an enzyme that's reliant on iron to make our thyroid hormones in the first place, and then the conversion of the T4, the inactive one, into the active thyroid hormone T3. And you think about what we need. Every cell in the body has a receptor for vitamin D and thyroid hormone. So every cell is relying on this.
It's all vitamin D is a pro-hormone.
Yeah.
iron is kind of a pro-hormone too.
It is.
You glossed over so many things that I want them to hear. Because a lot of people are getting, the thyroid, they get just thrown on thyroid medication when so much of it is not the thyroid, okay?
Yeah.
It's the conversion oftentimes. So you have to take inactive T4 and convert it to an active form called T3. And that conversion is iron dependent.
And selenium.
Of course, yeah.
Yep.
And yet, so many people for different reasons have selenium issues, and iron plays that role.
It does.
Yeah, and it's like, and then the conversion of the hormones themselves.
That's right.
You need iron.
That's right.
So it's like, gosh, and then yet everyone's downstream just trying to take thyroid hormone, wondering why it's really not working. Oh, but my blood level looked better, because you could take T4 and make your blood level look better, and even your TSH, but you go, I don't feel better. Oh, and by the way, what I teach is toxins inflame cells and cause hormone resistance. So yeah.
it's a mess. Hey,
Yeah.
So there's just, even for phase 1 detoxification, we need iron. So, and it is the most common nutritional deficiency in the world. I think because of social media.
I wanted you to say that. It is.
It's the number one, and I think we're missing it because right now with social media, there are other nutrients that appear more popular. Everyone knows about how important magnesium is. Vitamin D, you got it. Creatine, protein, and all of it's important, but we're missing iron, and
we're missing iron. But right now in our space, especially, iron is not in vogue. Meaning, iron is become a negative because there's some research, and we have to have this conversation because it's really important.
Yeah.
Because there's research showing that high ferritin levels, and we'll talk about what's high or what's not, is driving more oxidation, heart attacks, strokes. When I've read the studies on this, okay, I'm not as convinced that being, especially for a male, driving your iron ferritin levels, which is stored iron, under 100 is actually a good thing. It's not as simple as they're making it. No. So tell me what you know about this topic, because this is very controversial right now. Everyone's forcing iron down, right? And I agree. Hemochromatosis is a condition where iron can go super high and be super oxidative, very dangerous.
Yeah.
But what is your whole feeling on this whole topic right now?
So I get direct messages every day from people bringing this part of the story to life and asking, where's the truth in this? Or they'll have watched a video on social media that says never ever take iron because it's essentially a poison, and their iron has tanked and they feel horrendous.
I know.
So there's more to iron, obviously, to its metabolism than just iron. So iron needs copper, it needs vitamin A to go into storage and come out of storage. So sometimes what looks like iron accumulation is copper deficiency or vitamin A deficiency, or at least insufficiency. So
in other words, if ferritin levels look like they're rising up, it could be another issue?
It could be another nutritional issue. And of course, inflammation falsely elevates ferritin.
That's right. Absolutely.
So if you have any kind of inflammation from lousy lifestyle choices or an injury and you have a blood test for ferritin, it'll be higher than it actually is.
By the way, people with parasites, candida, and other pathogens, their ferritin goes up?
Yep. And it does that because the body doesn't want the parasites to have too much iron available to them. And so it pops it into storage to get it out of the way.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's not
on purpose.
And then they're lacking iron. And by the way, we're going to talk about an iron because when people say, well, it makes people constipated. No, you're taking the wrong iron.
That's right.
Because it's feeding the bacteria, and the bacteria actually create the constipation.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, and I think there can be cellular inflammation in the cells that line the small intestine. Let's unpack that, can we?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So with what I call old school iron supplements, they are typically iron bound to a salt or a chelate. And you swallow them and they rely on stomach acid to split that apart. So then the iron is free. And this is old school supplements, not the good ones we're going to talk about in a minute. So then that free iron...
By the way, though, this is what's on the market, though.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So the free iron then arrives at the surface of the cells that line the small intestine. And if people can imagine, on the surface of the cell of the small intestine is a truck, a transporter, a lorry called DMT1. Don't worry about the silly name.
That was a
lorry. Is that a truck? A truck.
That's an Australian thing.
Is it?
A lorry,
I thought a lorry was US.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
A lorry.
I was trying to... Maybe it's
I
British.
had a flashback
It
of
might be
Thomas the
British.
Train.
We have
I had
we have these people
British
that work
audience.
on. He doesn't know
a
what a
truck.
lorry
That's
is.
a Thomas the Train term.
Okay, great. Everyone knows
I
what a
think
truck
so.
is.
A
We'll
lorry,
go
yeah.
with truck. A transporter. On the surface of the gut cell is a little truck called DMT1, and this free iron has to get on the back of the truck and be driven inside the gut cell. This truck also transports calcium, zinc, other minerals. So it's a busy truck. So firstly, iron has to get the space on the back of the truck, and then it goes inside the gut cell, but it floods the inside of the cells that line the small intestine. It floods them with free iron, and free iron is very inflammatory and drives oxidative stress. I think that is also what contributes to the constipation people experience with old school common type iron supplements.
Right.
But right now, with these old school supplements in what I'm describing, the iron is still inside the cell. It's not in the blood, so it can go and do its work. It's got to get out of the cell. And to get out of the cell, there's an enzyme that's needed that is completely reliant on copper. So when people take high dose, cheap, old school iron supplements, flood the gut cells with all this iron, there's no copper to do the work and get it out of the gut cells. And I think it can be very damaging to the gut.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah.
And it doesn't then go on and do the work it needs to do in your body. It's stuck in the gut cells. Whereas with the iron that we're talking about, so ferritin iron, I've used ferritin iron in my product, Iconic Iron. It's extracted from peas, good old organic peas. And the ferritin iron remains, we pop it in a supplement, and when we swallow it, it mostly escapes digestion, degradation by stomach acid. And if I describe what it looks like, ferritin is like a little protein cage that the peas naturally make and house iron inside it. So there can be 4,500 atoms of iron inside the ferritin cage. And when that little ferritin cage containing all of that iron arrives at the small intestine, the cells that line the small intestine just reach out and grab that thing whole and take it inside the cell. The gut cell, is not exposed to free iron because it's beautifully housed inside the cage, and it also isn't reliant on copper to get out the back door and into the blood. It can just do that, be delivered to what's called the total iron pool, and then the magnificence of the body decides where that iron is going to be best used. So the absorption is extraordinary. There's the bioavailability is amazing, and there's no side effects.
Yeah. And I tell you, I've told you this, people that tend to, I'm one of them, tend to rise ferritin. That's why I know a lot about this. Why, but as I found out, it really wasn't as high, right, as I thought.
Yeah.
But I would take this iron and it wouldn't budge at all. If anything, I did a before and after blood after like 6 months, and my ferritin was lower. I mean, that might have been coincidence, but it didn't raise it. That's the point.
Well, so. And it doesn't add to any inflation.
Yeah,
either.
Zero. Right. Yeah. I mean, so this topic is really, it's just not that simple. Here's where I go off the freeway on this topic. Okay.
Love this.
No one can give me an explanation for this, because I come from a major premise that God doesn't make mistakes. He's designed our body perfectly and beautifully, right? And intelligence knows exactly what to do. So did God make a mistake that, we're eating up this perfect diet and ferritin levels are going up? Because here's the thing, ferritin levels are highest in young athletes, and ferritin levels are highest in, people, some groups that you wouldn't expect. And, so I'm looking at this going, so wait a minute. It's like, is there a mistake here? And, the answer is no, it's not as simple as we think. And that's what you're explaining. This high ferritin thing is not what you think. It could be parasitic. It could be just inflammation. And it could be athletes who actually, what's turned out, I found a study on, who are training a lot in inflammatory, they run higher ferritin levels, but it's not a negative to them. There's no association with other strokes and other conditions.
That's right. So if you're going to do a blood test for iron, to test ferritin, you are told to not exercise for 48 hours. And so to get an accurate reflection of ferritin. Yeah. So if you have a blood test 3 or 4 hours after you've exercised, ferritin will be significantly higher than it actually is.
So that's when they see this high ferritin in young athletes. That's what they're seeing.
So to get an accurate picture, they need to have a break from exercise, which none of them want to do, which I understand. And so it's potentially false elevation that we're seeing. That's not to take away. I think if we speak more broadly about blood tests, there's another blood test that we do for iron called transferrin, and transferrin is a taxi that drives iron around. So transferrin is elevated in iron deficiency and iron deficiency anemia. It's a sign of iron hunger. So I look at ferritin, but I also look at transferrin. And down under, our normal range for transferrin is 2 to 3.6 grams per litre. But we will fully vibe with this, there's ideal ranges, there's normal ranges, and then there's ideal ranges. So what I've just said is the normal range that pathology will say. For me, once transferrin gets above 2.5 or 2.6, it's showing the body is seeking more iron. It's making more taxis to try and pick up more passengers, the passengers being the iron. So if you couple that with a ferritin score, we get a much better idea about what the body, the glorious intelligence of the body is actually seeking.
So what you're saying is you can't just look at a ferritin, you have to look at transferrin. And I think I read there's another one in there. It's not total iron that you have to look at it.
Total iron binding capacity.
That's what it is.
TIBC.
And you have to consider that as well.
So it's basically just another way to look at transferrin. They're looking at the same thing.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's for that. So I did.
It's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, bringing sanity to this, people are just worrying about, they're not taking iron, they're avoiding iron, they're even choosing low iron foods, etc., because they're worried about their ferritin levels, because they're saying, hey, I'm going to have a heart attack.
If they have hemochromatosis, which is a genetic condition of iron accumulation, that's entirely different.
You're talking if a normal range is 50 to 300. I don't even know down under's numbers, but we're talking about over 1,000.
Yeah.
Which is hemochromatosis.
And of course that's a big concern. So I'll give you an example. So the normal range for ferritin in the States for an adult female is 12 to 150 nanograms per litre.
Yeah.
Down under, the normal range for ferritin for adult women is 20 to 220 micrograms per litre. So, but it actually basically works out the same. I checked before I came in. Yeah. So the optimum range for ferritin in my clinical experience is 50 to 150 for ferritin. That's for women. Okay,
males?
For males, you can allow for it to go a bit higher, kind of 50 to maybe 250. Mm-hmm. Once, though, anyone's ferritin gets below 50, you have symptoms. There's very good, really good research looking at that.
And there's people telling people to get below 50, right? I'm like, why? That makes no sense.
It's a backup battery.
And they're saying you have to give blood. And their thought is, well, men don't bleed like they used to. I'm not buying that. We're not, come on. We're lopping arms off all the time. We're not in war. I mean, honestly, that's what they say. Yeah. It's like that makes no sense to me.
But I think broadening, so obviously iron is incredibly important. And if someone is told that they might be inside the normal range, their ferritin might be 22 and they're told it's fine. No one's going to feel great when their ferritin's 22, particularly anyone who does any kind of exercise, anyone who, for a woman whose iron requirements, let's say she's going through perimenopause and she's menstruating more frequently, her iron requirements are greater. So there's no backup battery there. Mm-hmm. So minimum 50. But yes, of course, we don't want it to go too high either. But with old school iron supplements, usually I would see ferritin, when we want it to improve, it might be a woman whose ferritin was, say, 14, which is way too low, and it might get to 16 in 2 months with old school supplements. With ferritin iron from the organic piece, so with iconic iron.
This new iron?
The iconic iron is moving it from 14 to 43 in 2 months.
I'm telling you, it transforms women's energy, their brain.
Their brain.
It's okay. First of all, before tell them where to get your book, because all of this, because they're going, I can't keep all this is in her book, and in how to get the iron. So just tell them, share that.
You're so lovely. Thank you. So my latest book is called Fix Iron First, and it's available at drlibby.com, so drlibby.com. And Iconic Iron BioBlends is my supplement company, and it's all made from food, and it's at bioblends.com.
Yeah. I mean, great products. She's a biochemist. Of course, there's great products, right? It's like, so, but the iron thing is, I just, I geek out on this iron topic and all of it. So I just,
when I told him my energy has just been down. I will say, I think I've had some sleep disruption. Could be the mattress. We've got a new home and a new mattress. We didn't figure that out.
We didn't choose this mattress. It took me 8 months to research the best mattress in the world. I found one. I'm going to bring the guy on. I'm so excited about this mattress.
So anyway, that's ordered. But energy, I just feel a little more sluggish. And I think that maybe that is my symptom, right? And I also, during perimenopause, I developed ligament laxity. That was my issue. I didn't have hot flashes. I didn't have mood swings. I didn't have that stuff, but I did have the ligament laxity. And
she had a spondylo, almost a grade 3. That means your spine, I know you know what I'm explaining to them, it shifts forward. Happened when she was young. They put her in the walker too early.
That's why you don't ever put a baby until they can weight bear in a jumper.
Yeah.
Don't ever do
Jumpers, walkers, because the spine's not meant for that. And
I was
literally 80% of them get spondylolisthesis with a bone slide. She had that. But most people don't know it until adulthood. Women don't know it until, guess what? They're going through perimenopause. Estrogen keeps ligaments intact, right? And it's normal to estrogen to change, estrogen lower, but it created just enough laxity where that shifted,
right.
And now she had symptoms with it. But.
So a lot of stem cells and more research, and I'm in very good shape. But it's been a full-time job getting all that put back together. And so the mattress now, but nonetheless, I do think that, and I get out of bed stiff, I'm always looking for that comfortable position. So other than being disturbed in my sleep and now a little more sluggish, I would say that's it. But so for me, what is it? What would you recommend in terms of, obviously iron consistent? I don't know. What do I take 2 of those a day.
Yeah. It's great.
Is that enough?
It's great. It's perfect.
And what's the name of the product?
Iconic Iron.
There you go. Okay. That's what my wife takes.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's more recently taking that. You were taking my mineral, which has the same iron, but you needed higher levels. And that's why I'm like, you need this iron.
So you told me to take less of that and more of what
of that,
you have.
Just to get more of that iron.
Right.
And then I also put her on copper peptide, GHK, knowing the copper. Yeah, so just to make sure that she had a copper. And by the way, one of the zinc, we have the most absorbable zinc in the world. And it's because that's part of that as well.
And so what about your greens, and you have something that's red? And so are those also, I'm assuming.
Because they're her, talk about what you would say, here's what you need of
and I'll do the rest of it because I'm all about it, obviously.
This is your time to promote your products right here. She opened the door.
And you've got your first customer from the Dr. Pompa podcast.
You're so sweet. So BioBlends, the big difference is it is all made from food. So the organic daily greens and reds is it's only 6 ingredients. I see a lot of products out there that might have 60 ingredients and it's tiny little doses of,
See, that's my criticism of these products. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's right. So there's only 6 ingredients. They're very concentrated to a therapeutic dose. So you've got your wheatgrass, your barley grass, but there's also this really magnificent extract of broccoli in there that contains high levels of glucoraphanin that the body converts to sulforaphane.
Sulfur is a big problem too with people.
And so for phase 2 liver detoxification, so if we think about the organic daily greens and radiant reds would be really beautiful. I have another product called Liver Love that's specifically designed for phase 1 and phase 2 detox to support that. So that's all very helpful.
And I want to say this, that applies to hormones.
It does.
Because how you get rid of toxic hormones, toxic estrogen metabolites, which can drive cancer and other problems, is phase 1 and phase 2 detox.
It is. So then there is a Meno Ease product that contains just beautiful, they're very gentle herbs, but saffron is in there.
What is it?
Meno Ease.
What is
that? So that's for women if they are postmenopausal, so they're not bleeding anymore, but they have still some sort of neurological symptoms, or there might be a tension in their body. So saffron is one of the key ingredients in that is incredibly calming and soothing.
Product. We got a lot of tension building up in that body. So we got
really? I think I've never been better.
She gave it me, so I'm coming back. No, but that product she needs.
And then there's Calm Restore. So Calm Restore is, you can use it during the day if you feel that heightened sense with that sort of adrenaline experience, or you can use it at night for sleep. So
you need that product.
Do you have anything with you?
Exactly. You need that product too.
I will have it delivered to you, whatever you want.
Products, first of all, I love, because you're a biochemist, right? It's like, so you know how to make products. You know the balance. You know the synergies, right? And but you really have focused on women her age. Perimenopause, menopause, that is your area of expertise. And that's why I was like, you got to be on this show, Hutton, because you're her girl.
I think I'm one of the only people that, at least in conversation, and maybe I'm older than most of my friends, that would talk about this, right, and really care. But I feel like so many women are doing hormones.
Well, because they're taking the cheap way out.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
it's
easy.
It's
It's easier. It's the easier way out.
It's the easier way out, and it's now.
And we never do
now.
that.
Let me defend you.
Seriously, we
because
don't.
it's all you're told, so it's not your fault,
Right.
And that is the truth. So I made that sound worse than it was because it's not their fault. That's all they know.
Right.
You've had the advantage of me in many ways, hopefully.
Yes.
No, but women don't know that what we're saying. Like we started this conversation with the stress response.
Yeah.
Your Calm product obviously helps them there.
Very much.
Right. Yeah. So you're dealing with that pillar
That's
of
right.
the emotional component.
Yes.
And that's, we talked about how iron plays into that. We're talking about how a lot of the sulfur can play into this, right? Getting rid of toxic hormones.
That's right.
You know, so you've thought this through.
Very much. And thank you, Dr. Pompa, for even seeing that. Thank you. Because I've thought through every product. Every product is made meticulously with ridiculous. I'm a pain. I'm a pest to work with because I have
God,
the high.
is she a pain and a pest to work with?
Absolutely.
Okay,
See?
good. Yeah.
For a long time.
Yeah. My kids would say that too because I'm always trying to drive the next thing. But
Well,
anyway.
I want to make products that I'm happy taking, and that.
Me too.
And and so when you care
And
when
solve
you-
a problem.
That's right. That actually make a difference. So, for energy, let's think about life when energy is low. Everything's more difficult. We are less likely to do a home cooked meal because we'll get takeout. When we're tired, people will do that. They won't exercise. They'll just sit on the couch and not exercise. If you think about your confidence in yourself when you lack energy day after day, it'll impact a promotion you might want to apply for or a job you might want to apply for. Low energy affects your self-talk and the way you speak to everyone you love in the world. So when I couple the organic daily greens with iron, people write to us every day going, my energy has literally transformed. I can literally feel the difference.
I believe it.
That's
you
clearly
think
the next product I'm going to be.
And you think about
implementing.
the ripple effect of that, not only on the individual, but on everyone they come into contact with.
Yeah, but you need the calm for sleep. You do. I mean,
I need it all.
yeah.
I mean, just
And then what was that?
take it all.
What was it called?
Meno-ease.
Meno-ease. You need the menopause. I was mishearing that. Meno-ease. I got it
It's
now.
the accent.
Yeah.
And for women still menstruating, there is a product called Cycle Essentials. So for PCOS or really heavy, painful periods, that can also be lovely. So, but yeah, everything has been thought through. It's been considered I look at the biochemical pathways and what I want to address, and then the nutrients that are also needed.
And that's I think there's two huge advantages here. Number one, you're a woman because you like the things that are important to me, I dig in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You dug into
Yeah.
this topic, right?
Yeah.
Because you are who you are. And then the other thing is you're a biochemist. Yeah. What about our men out there? Because we already said, that they're suffering with just being thrown on testosterone or antidepressants. Neither are really getting to the problem.
So I think for men, I meet a lot of men who will self-medicate with an excessive amount of alcohol. I'm not talking about a drink here and there, but I mean, they're relying on it to change their mood, or they think they need alcohol to sleep. And they might be in a position where they can have less, or they'll say, I'm not ready to do that yet, but I want to protect my liver. So that's where obviously I'm not saying keep drinking and don't address that and just take a pill. But there are some beautiful herbs in Liver Love that can be very helpful to the liver, very protective. So a lot of men will use that to support their liver. Then, of course, zinc. You mentioned zinc.
Yeah.
There's also a zinc. But we need zinc for the
make
body to be
testosterone.
able to make testosterone. And interestingly, when I wrote Fix Iron First, I really dug into boys at puberty. Puberty is delayed in boys when they're iron deficient. So, and research was done showing some were given testosterone therapy or growth hormone therapy, and some were given iron, and the iron ones hit their puberty that they were supposed to be in. They hit it sooner and better. So boys who are iron deficient have delayed puberty. So that speaks to me that we also need to be mindful of that for men. Obviously, men's requirements for iron aren't as great as women across the menstruation years because men aren't menstruating. But even on
an argument about that today.
but even on this visit to the States, I'm so respectful of people's life experience, and I don't always inquire because things are private to people. I have had 4 men on this experience. It's just come out that they've told me that they're iron deficient.
Wow.
I just say, speak about what I do without mentioning iron. Oh yeah, I'm iron deficient, they've said. 4 men. So it's becoming a bigger problem for men, which is a surprise for me, really.
Well, you look at the fact that people are being told meat causes heart disease and all these problems, right? And we're talking about, conventional meat, I agree, is not great, but grass-fed meat couldn't be better for your hormones, your iron, all the minerals that we're talking about. And if you remember what Dr. Libby said, what was at the top of the hormone chain? Cholesterol.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, eating grass-fed, 100% grass-fed meat can make up a lot of these deficiencies too, right? And people aren't doing that though.
And there's a lot of, I think, confusing information for people out there around meat. So it is a great privilege that we can now access organic grass-fed meat.
Yeah.
And it's.
How is it in Australia? I think you have
probably
better things as far as that goes, but worse.
It's in the supermarket. It's
great.
not just in specialty stores. Organic grass-fed meat is in the supermarket.
I tell you what, I felt bad for Australia and New Zealand, such nanny states in the vaccine thing with COVID and COVID period. I mean, y'all really,
did you stay put or did you travel?
I was in Queensland and there were no restrictions.
Oh, that's
so
good.
it was a lot of people from the southern states where there were a lot of restrictions. A lot of people from down south moved north. So the roads are having to be wide. The population in the northern state where it's really...
They were like, we're out of here.
Yeah, a lot of
and
people
stayed.
moved.
Is there a different political structure in one versus the other?
That's a good question. I don't pay much attention to that. Okay. But they've moved and they've stayed.
They don't actually. Yeah, it's like not like here.
No.
Yeah,
it's a difference.
Because we knew someone that was obviously in the difficult part.
Yeah.
Remember?
Oh, yeah.
He came here.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So but obviously even looking at that and the importance of something like vitamin D, just one of the gifts of that is I think people became, our immunity is not just something we should think about in winter. I want to be strong and resilient all year round. I think that's a great, we want to look after the terrain. We want to make sure the terrain is robust. And how do we do that? We do that with all the basic principles: nutrition, sleep, sunshine, movement. All these, I kind of we've wanted all of these hacks and I understand why people do that, especially people who are already exceptionally well. They want to extend on that.
Exactly.
But because the hacks end up all over social media, I think a lot of people miss the basics. Just
Absolutely.
The food, the movement, the sleep, the sunshine, the water. And if, for example, one of my little catch cries right now is you can't cold plunge your way out of iron deficiency. Like you have to address...
Or anything else, by
the way.
anything
else.
I'll make the argument you can cold plunge your way into hormone problems.
You can.
Because cold is a stress, and if you don't adapt to the stress, it all becomes inflammatory and a negative, and people are doing too much. So to the point, it's like, I love biohacks, right? But I'm doing all the things that you said, right?
Yeah.
But you have to understand, biohacks work on the premise of hormesis.
Yes.
And that means they work by stressing the body. People are doing too much red light. Another study just came out, remember? Because you were asking me, oh my gosh, does that apply? They were talking about how you can, you're adding this charge into the mitochondria and why that can go bad, with too much red light because it bypasses normal thing, blah, blah, blah. But anyways, because light is meant to be full spectrum, right? So you can overdo biohacks, you can overdo cold, you can overdo hot. Did you see the new study out? People sitting in saunas, men, they're crushing their sperm. So
I'm
their
not
sperm
surprised.
Yeah, exactly. Affected testosterone level, fertility. I mean, all these things are affected.
And actually women with implants.
So Paul Saladino.
Interesting.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's the other thing.
I didn't know that.
Paul Saladino literally to sit in his sauna longer, and I'm saying this is a positive. Paul figured it out. He ices his nuts, so he doesn't get affected. I mean, it's like, but my point is you have to be careful with biohacks. That's the only point I'm making. I'm not negative on it. I'm just saying be careful. Yeah. You have to understand how they work. So.
Very much.
Note taken. Note taken.
Yeah, you know what? So my son, my clever son, I'm doing the video, and because I read a piece of the study when I did the Instagram video, and he says, well, that also includes people using hot seats all the time. Like people turn their seat all the way
In
up
their car.
and drive for an hour. He's right.
I never let my
Yeah,
boys turn on their heated seat because
Yeah.
I would tell them, you're killing your sperm.
Yeah, it's right.
You want to have children someday,
I mean,
right?
and then ultimately you're affecting, the testicles have the ability to move up and down, but to what point when you have heat right on them? Not a good thing.
Good point. When you think about traditional Chinese medicine, cold is not your friend. They will encourage warmth, warm food, keep your lower back warm, the top of your neck warm. And so I too worry particularly about women overextending on cold and the stress of that, because I think warmth is more, a lot of women, I wrote a book in 2011.
How many books have you written?
14.
Oh, geez.
2011 feels like yesterday to me, but anyway, it's not. It's a while ago. But I wrote a book called Rushing Woman Syndrome, as in hurry. And the women I describe in that book are living on red alert with that high adrenaline that we talked about, with hormone disruption because of persistent stress, often not looking after themselves
People
with
need
food.
to where do they buy the books again?
drlibby.com.
Okay. Right.
And so with that sort of rushing scenario, there's so much tension, there's so much depletion that I think cold depletes them further.
I agree.
By the way,
I agree.
I have rejected
she has.
cryotherapy, cold plunges. I mean, literally, I've done one cold plunge in my life that I was like, I could do this. And it was the one in Puerto Rico. And it was just in the ground of water.
I made sure it was 55 degrees.
And right, because it was just the earth. I mean, there was nothing special. It wasn't too cold. But otherwise, I have literally, it's nearly traumatizing.
Yeah.
Well, but
right?
not just you, most women.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be validated.
Mm-hmm.
Like with science, this is good.
And I think too, we have there's a voice inside of us that has our back. We know, we
100%.
actually inherently know.
Women are so much more in tune with their body.
But they still ignore it too often.
And perceptive of situations too, right? I think women, he learned to trust me before his own gut, but it bothered him for the longest time of why he would ever consider doing that. And we read something. It was written by a Christian author explaining that God put that thing in women, that barometer. And follow your gut, ladies. Follow your gut.
And it is a trust.
Husbands, your wife's always right.
Happy wife, happy life.
But it is a trust that to know, there's a voice that's saying it's time to go to bed. Oh, hello. It's time to go to bed. You know what to eat for lunch. You don't need to look for another expert to tell you what to eat for lunch. But we stop listening. We tune out. We think we don't know. And then, we can feel so lost. So I would also encourage people to tune in.
I think that, I don't want to call fasting a biohack. I love fasting, right? But I always tell, there's this group of women shouldn't fast. Well, that's not true, but women definitely shouldn't fast like a man. One of my students, Mindy Peltz, she wrote a book, Fast Like a Woman, right?
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
she never fasted a day of her life. She sat there and was the only one eating at one of my seminars, and we were doing a fast. It was hilarious. I love her. But anyway, but the point is that women shouldn't fast like a man because they absolutely need to respect the stress of fasting. And it can be too much stress. So I find women are fasting too much today. And I think a lot of people are fasting too much, at least in our space, because it's a stress.
Yeah.
Even though I love fasting, I now walk around to these seminars saying the feast is as important as the fast. I find women benefit more from feast days, healthy food, than even fasting, because they're lacking.
And even in a regimen people get into, right? We'll eat a day, we'll fast a day and eat one meal. Lately that we've been doing that. But like today, I'm hungry. I'm going to eat. Smart. And it's my fast day. Yeah. And I don't care. You just can't get in bondage to the process. And so many women, I think, and the other thing I had to learn to stop doing is comparing what he does to what's best for me.
Beautiful.
And that took some time. I'd be like, well, if he can do this.
You want to hit me with this?
I'll take care of you later.
This is why I have these. I'm the only one that has these, but no.
No, we all do, actually. We could end this really well. And it's 2 against 1.
We're literally going to have a show. And it's going to be like this. And you're going to be like coming at, and I'm going to be coming at you.
I'm coming in with a rock and sock.
Our guest is going to be sitting there like, oh my God, like what is happening?
That might be a different kind of therapist.
People just listening, there's these little pillows that are on the side that are strategically here.
They're
and we whack each other with them. But anyway.
So, needless to say, I'm eating today. You're not.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I don't know. Maybe I will then.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, yeah, because I started this conversation by saying I did a hard workout.
It's a travel day, and we really do fast on travel days. We do. I mean, it's just something we do, and it makes sense, and it's healthy, and all of that protects you from the radiation and all that stuff. So one less stressor.
How many products do you have?
There are 9. Yeah.
9. Or any for this strong
Any more you can give her, so I can try to. So you can't just medicate me you can't just medicate me to submission, hon. It's like that's where prayer comes in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
She's radiant. She's doing great.
I've worked really hard.
Yeah,
and I've done a lot of things, but now I'm ready to try some more of your products. I'm excited because the only one I do have is the iron one, and I've only been on it.
No, her products are great. I mean,
3-4
your
weeks,
knowledge
maybe?
around these topics are really good. That's why you're here.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. And it's gorgeous to have a conversation with such like-minded people. It's really special.
Really fun. It was fun.
There's something pressing that you feel they have to know. What is it?
Well, other than find out if you're iron deficient and address it if you are, I guess my closing thoughts, I guess, are more around, I guess, the magnificence of life, because we can get so caught up in the doing, the achieving, the productivity, and that's all magnificent, particularly if it, is contributing to your own life and the lives of others. But when I read a book many years ago now by Bronnie Ware called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, and she was a palliative care nurse.
That's interesting.
She was
what
a palliative.
Were they? Do you remember them? Maybe not all.
Well, one of the top one was that people lived a life that was not their own. It was living a life that others expected of them, and so they kind of feel like they missed their life. But the other big takeaway, I get goosebumps when I talk about it. The other big takeaway I got from that book is that so much joy that we experience in life comes from letting ourselves have what we already have. So when you talk to people who are dying and you ask them what they're going to miss the most in the world, they tell you the most ordinary things. They'll say they're going to miss the night sky or the feeling of their dog's fur under their fingertips, or their partner's face, or the smell of freshly cut lemon. And we have all of that right now. And so I think we need to let ourselves have what we already have, because I think that's what joy is all about. And joy gives us an irreplaceable depth of energy. And your heart is so open. You've got tears in your eyes.
I resonate with that.
Yeah, me too. It's why when you so graciously ask for, is there something, another message you want to bring to life? It's other than addressing nutritional deficiencies and being curious about your own stress responses, it's very much to let yourself have what you already have, because it's even when there's pain, even when there's genuinely hard times or awful things happening in your own life or in the world, there's still beauty. And our minds, I think, tend to focus on one or the other, but they coexist. It's like the moon is always there. The clouds can move over her face, but she never disappears. And it's like the pain, sometimes we focus a lot on that and we miss the beauty that's still there. And it's always available. The pain and the beauty coexist, and it's one of the gifts of life.
Wow. That was a beautiful synopsis of so much right there. That was amazing. Well, you can see that why you need, or who to share the show with. Right now, so you're going to want to share the show. But Dr. Libby Weaver, you're amazing. Go to her stuff, the books, 14 of them. I know 2 of them. So I think I have to get there. Yeah, you need to read.
I guess
one
I just
too.
need to start reading. I want to start writing.
Yeah.
I gave up on reading.
You have so much to share. It would be great for you to write.
Wow. Yeah, great show. You know who to share it with. Visit her stuff. So thank you for being here.
It's been a joy. Thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you for all the ways you care for people in the world. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. You too.